It was one of those places everyone in town knew about, but no one really talked about. The old basketball court on the edge of Maplewood had been abandoned for years. The paint on the asphalt was faded, the hoop was crooked, and the chain link fence around it rattled like it was trying to warn you to stay away. Kids dared each other to go there at night, but no one ever stayed long. There were too many stories, whispers about a guy named Marcus Hayes, a local legend who died on that court decades ago. They said he still played there, even after death. Ethan wasn't the kind of guy who believed in ghost stories. He was a skeptic, the type who rolled his eyes at campfire tales and laughed off superstitions. But when his friends challenged him to spend an hour at the court after dark, he couldn't back down. "It's just a stupid old court," he said, grabbing his basketball. "I'll prove there's nothing to be scared of." The sun had just set when Ethan arrived, the sky a deep shade of orange, fading into black. The court looked even creepier up close. The streetlight above flickered like it was about to die, and the wind made the net on the hoop sway like it was alive. Ethan bounced the ball a couple of times, the sound echoing way louder than it should have. He shook off the weird feeling and started shooting some hoops. At first, everything was normal. The ball swished through the net, and Ethan started to relax. "See," he muttered to himself. "Nothing scary about this place." But then he heard it. A second dribble, out of sync with his own. He froze, the ball tucked under his arm. The sound came again, closer this time. Ethan turned around slowly, his heart pounding. There was no one there. "Okay, funny joke," he called out, trying to sound brave. "Who's messing with me?" No answer, just the sound of the wind and the faint creak of the hoop. Ethan took a deep breath and went back to shooting, but the air felt heavier now, like the court was closing in on him. The streetlight flickered again, and for a split second, he thought he saw someone standing at the edge of the court. A tall guy in an old-school basketball jersey. Ethan blinked, and the figure was gone. "Get it together, man," he muttered, shaking his head. But then the ball slipped out of his hands and rolled toward the fence. He jogged after it, but before he could pick it up, someone else grabbed it. It was the guy in the jersey. Up close, he looked wrong. His skin was pale, almost glowing, and his eyes were dark, like two black holes. He smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was the kind of smile that made Ethan's stomach drop. "You think you're good enough to play here?" the guy said, his voice low and raspy. He dribbled the ball once, the sound echoing like a gunshot. "Let's see what you've got." Ethan didn't even have time to respond. The guy, Marcus, it had to be Marcus, was on him in an instant, moving faster than anyone Ethan had ever seen. He drove past Ethan like he wasn't even there, dunking the ball with so much force the backboard cracked. The sound was deafening. Ethan tried to back away, but his feet felt glued to the ground. The court seemed to stretch out around him, the fence now impossibly far away. Marcus was everywhere, his laughter echoing as he scored again and again. The ball started to change, turning darker and darker until it was pitch black, like it was made of shadow. "Your turn," Marcus said, tossing the ball to Ethan. It felt cold and slimy, like it was alive. Ethan tried to drop it, but it stuck to his hands, pulsing like a heartbeat. "Play," Marcus commanded, his voice booming. Ethan didn't want to, but his body moved on its own. He dribbled, shot, and the ball disappeared into the hoop like it had been swallowed. The ground beneath him cracked, tendrils of darkness wrapping around his legs. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. Marcus loomed over him, his grin stretching wider than any human face should. "You wanted to prove yourself," Marcus whispered. "Now you'll have forever to do it." The darkness swallowed Ethan whole, pulling him into the court. The last thing he saw was Marcus standing over him, dribbling the blackened ball with the same terrifying smile. The next morning, the court was empty. The only sign Ethan had ever been there was his sneaker lying near the hoop. People in town avoided the place after that, whispering about the curse and the ghost of Marcus Hayes. But if you walk by on a quiet night, you might hear the sound of a basketball bouncing. And if you're brave enough to look, you might see two figures playing an endless game, one alive and one dead, trapped on the court forever. It was just another night at the old Hollow Ridge basketball court, a place that used to be full of kids playing. But now it was nothing more than a forgotten slab of concrete under some flickering streetlights. People talked about weird stuff happening there. Strange figures in the shadows, phantom dribbles in the dead of night, and that eerie feeling like someone was watching you. Jared, a college basketball player, didn't buy into any of it. He just wanted a quiet place to practice without distractions. The Hollow Ridge court was perfect. No crowds, no noise, just him and the hoop. He showed up around midnight, dribbling his ball as he stepped onto the court. The sound echoed weirdly, like the ground underneath was hollow. Shaking it off, he got into his rhythm. Dribble, step back, shoot, swish. Everything felt normal at first, but then something started feeling off. Every time the ball bounced, it echoed just a little too long, like there was a second, fainter bounce following his own. That's when he noticed it. A shadow stretched across the court, long and thin, like someone was standing right there. But when he turned around, nothing, just empty space. His chest tightened, but he forced himself to keep going. He grabbed the ball, took another shot. But this time, the ball never came back down. It just disappeared, midair. Jared frowned, scanning the area. It didn't roll away, didn't bounce. It was just gone. And then he heard it. A slow, steady dribble. His stomach dropped. It wasn't his ball, and he sure as hell wasn't dribbling. The sound came from the other end of the court. A figure stood there, barely visible in the dim light. It was tall, too tall. Its arms hung awkwardly long at its sides. And the worst part? The ball it was dribbling wasn't touching the ground. It just floated beneath its hand. Jared's breath hitched. He wanted to run, but his feet were cemented to the spot. Then the figure lifted its head, or whatever it had instead of a head. There was no face. Just a smooth, empty void staring right at him. The dribbling stopped. Then the lights cut out. Pure darkness. Jared's heartbeat pounded in his ears. He stumbled back, his breath shaky. Then, a whisper, right by his ear. "Play with me." The lights snapped back on, but something was different. The court wasn't broken down anymore. It looked brand new, like it had decades ago. The rusted hoop was shiny again, the net swaying like someone had just made a shot. But that wasn't the worst part. He wasn't alone anymore. Dozens of shadowy figures surrounded the court, standing just outside the light. Their faces were blurry, their empty eyes locked on him. And in the center, the faceless figure stood, holding the ball. It bounced once, twice, then rolled toward Jared's feet. A challenge. Jared's hands clenched into fists. Every instinct screamed at him to run. But somehow, he knew if he didn't play, he wasn't getting out of here. He picked up the ball. It was freezing, ice cold against his fingers. Taking a shaky breath, he dribbled once, then twice. The figures didn't move. just watched. He squared up, took a shot. The ball soared through the air. The second it hit the net, a blood-curdling scream tore through the night. The figures melted into darkness, and the faceless one, it grinned. A huge, unnatural grin, stretching where no mouth should be. The ground cracked open beneath Jared's feet. He was falling into nothing. And then, he was back. Jared stood at the edge of the hollow ridge court, his heart racing. His ball was gone. Everything was silent again, like nothing had happened. He turned and sprinted away, not daring to look back. The next day, he went to check the court, just to prove to himself it was all in his head. But there, sitting at the free throw line, was a brand new basketball, waiting. Jared never played there again.